I know.
We got it. Electronics can work. So let's get started. Well, on my watch, which is usually 2 minutes fast. So we'll just I'm gonna hide this thing. There we go. So here we are at this meeting about housing, which is a crisis here, as we all know. And so we're just going to find out about this. This isn't going to be a comprehensive data dump on you. We've got a lot of presenters here. We're going to keep them to around 5 minutes each, so it's 1 hour meeting. If you've got any comments or any questions, save them for after the meeting. And then I'm going to be sending out more detailed information to all the emails that I already sent the flyer to. So if you haven't gotten a flyer from me in an email, I'm going to put a sign-up sheet over there. The agenda is over there. Somebody will pass those out. I don't know if there's enough for everybody. You may have to share. There's 40. So where we'll get on with it. This is just an overview of a lot of different things. So here's Ketchikan is an economic development organization in Ketchikan. I am the executive director, Deborah Hayden. A couple of my board members are here. We've got Bill Passuda, who's the president. We've got Christy Willis, who just joined us. Who else? Anybody raise your hand if you're here. And that's our mission right there. Oops. There we are. So you can read that. The one death of PowerPoints is that the presenter doesn't read the slide. If you read the slide, why have a slide? So there's the agenda. We're going to have the people who are doing the townhouse development on Old Dairy Road are going to tell us a little bit about that. Then Alaska Housing is going to tell us about their low-income housing tax credit program for low to moderate income people, and their senior housing a little bit. And AIC Housing is here, and they're going to discuss their navigation center and Jackson Street projects. And First Bank is going to tell us about why a little bit of impression about the volatility of mortgage rates and a new loan program that's come out that will help builders. And Legacy Real Estate Near Diamonds is going to tell us a little bit about factors in rental rates and the paucity, that's one of my words, the lack of rental. And Medicine Lumber, Janice Walford is here. She's going to talk to us. She doesn't know this yet. Janice, I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to go over this with you in detail, but just maybe what we talked about the other day, you know, the challenges of sourcing building materials and locally graded lumber. So that's something that's new. And then Ketchikan Borough, we have Rodney Dial is here, and he's going to tell us a bit about the borough land projects and what they're going to do to try to facilitate development on those projects on the land. Okay, so here we go. First up is our people, Glenn Gillard and Jim McCall. And are you there?
Hi, this is Glenn. I have a partner, John McGrew, not Jim McCall. But
oh, I'm sorry, Jim McCall is with somebody else. I'm sorry.
I think Jim is with AHFC.
Yeah, right. There you are.
He's going to talk when Andy Petroni talks, I suppose. Anyway, John McGrew and I are part of a group called Swell, and we have been in the low-income housing tax credit / affordable housing business for between 25 and 30 years each. John's been at it a little longer than I have. But we have built affordable housing throughout the state, mainly in the rail belt, but we have built projects in Juneau and more recently in Petersburg and Kodiak and even on Alaska. I think we've done maybe about 1,200 of these units throughout the state over this period of time. Our project that we're calling Tongass Townhomes is located in an area just south of Saxman on Old Dairy Road. Hopefully everybody knows where that is. We are proposing 20 units there and really catering to families. These are all 2 and 3 bedroom units, and most of them are townhomes, as the name suggests. But we do have, I think it's 5 units that are fully equipped and accessible for people with disabilities, physical disabilities. Our rents are going to be as low as $600, and then they kind of go up from there depending on people's income. All of our units are rented to people, well, I shouldn't say all our units. A majority of the units are rented to people making 60% or less of median income. And so our rents are commensurate with people's income levels. And we actually have project-based vouchers on this project. So if there are some people that cannot afford the rent, then the vouchers will help supplement the rental payments. We have some units that we're setting aside for people with physical and mental disabilities. And then we also have a unit that is set aside for someone who's coming out of transitional housing. We've already actually started construction or clearing the site. And we expect to start delivering units next summer. And our project will be finished by the winter, next winter. So John might have some additional comments to make.
Sure. Thanks, Glenn. I would just add, we do have another minor partner named Mike Chevalier, and Mike has a company called North Star. They're a very experienced property management firm with affordable housing projects for HUD and low-income housing tax credit projects. And he actually is involved in several projects in Ketchikan already. So he's familiar with the Ketchikan market. And we think he's been a really good asset to the team, and he will be involved as well. That's the only thing.
Yeah, we're anxious to do another project there in Ketchikan. We're looking for potential sites. It's a real challenge trying to find a good sized piece of land that will work for us, or some type of a rehab, because we need something with scale. But we'd like to do something in downtown Ketchikan or closer to the center of Ketchikan if we could. Future.
We're also acting, we might mention, as a consultant for ACAW, and they are a division of Alaska Housing Finance that is interested in finding some property to explore building, finding a site to explore building some additional units in the area, and we've had a really hard time finding a piece. So. So we have interest, and ACAW has interest in additional projects in the Ketchikan area.
So I have a question for you. What can the community do to support you or help you?
Oh, that's a good question, Deborah. I appreciate you asking that. I think that the biggest thing is help us find sites. That's been the most challenging. You know, Ketchikan is kind of limited because of the mountains, and if you look for developable land to develop, it's pretty challenging. That's been our biggest restriction.
And also convincing HFC that Ketchikan is a priority.
Well, they've been very good to me. Well, thank you very much. Do you need some investors equity?
We're always looking to maybe partner with folks, but it's not something that would prevent us from moving a project forward there. But we always look for opportunities to maybe partner with folks.
So anybody in the room want to contact them if they want to invest in one of these projects? All right, so we'll move on. Thank you very much. We're going to go to the entity that funds all of these things. What happened was last year, I found out that you need to subsidize these things. So I went to Alaska Housing because they're the ones that manage the programs and talked to them, and they found out they have this GOAL program, which is low-income housing tax credits. They put together a whole bunch of grants and they fund the whole thing. And that's what is a bunch of the funding that they're using for this townhome project. So we have Andy Petroni, who manages that program, is on the line somewhere. Unmute yourself, Andy. Where are you?
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, I had a slide, but it looks like you got most of it on your own. So, yeah, key takeaway is my phone number. And I think if you go to our website, you'll find Reagan Mattingly manages some of the other housing development programs. So, provide a little quick background on the GOAL program. So this is the competitive allocation process or competitive funding round where Glenn and John have been submitting applications each year for all the projects on their slide there. So it's available around the state, and it's kind of a pooling of or most of the housing development resources that get funneled through Alaska Housing. So there's been mention of the low-income housing tax credit, and that is a mechanism to provide a lot of equity in these projects. But there's also some HUD grant funding. So the Home Investment Partnership and the National Housing Trust Fund, I see you're on the list there. So they provide quite a bit of affordable housing, or kind of the soft money that goes into these projects, because usually tax credits and debt aren't enough to fill the whole funding gap, especially in our current interest rate and development cost environment. You can probably delete the neighborhood stabilization program. That came out of the 2008 financial crisis as a kind of one of the federal rescue programs, and that's all but completed. And then the newly brand.
Excuse me, I just put those on there so people would know that there's more programs than you can possibly put in your pocket. And,
yeah.
But we just want to hear about the GOAL and senior housing.
Okay, and I'll briefly mention, because there is opportunity in the rural professional housing. That's a state-funded program, so it comes with fewer strings than you would with the federally funded programs. It is only eligible for small communities, but like Glenn and John found in Derry, and there've been projects in Saxman. If you get outside the actual municipality or the city of Ketchikan, those smaller communities can be eligible for that program. But it was recently rebranded from what used to be the Teacher, Health Professional, and Public Safety Housing Program. Now it's just the Rural Professional Housing Program.
You've got so many programs. I'm going to put out a list of them and all of the resources for them to everybody who's here. So
yeah, that's what I said. Best takeaway is my email address and my phone number. And if any of these spark questions, you can reach out to me directly to answer those questions. And
I want to tell you, I appreciate every time I call him, he's on the phone, he gives me all of his time, he goes in detail and explains everything to me, takes me by the hand, leads me down the path. So I really appreciate you, Andy. So thank you very much. That gold program, I've got the booklet, it's 52 pages. You want it? We'll be handing out everything about all of the housing and probably resources that Alaska Housing is making. And Ketchikan Indian Community is looking for partnership with them as well. So thank you very much, Andy. Go on. The next one. This is Ketchikan Indian Community. So where are you? There's they've got two things we're going to look at today.
Thank you.
I found this.
Oh, yes, thank you, Deborah. Hi, everyone. My name is Myrna Cheney, and I'm a KIC Housing Director. I also have with me today Melissa O'Brien, Project Development Coordinator. And actually, today, we,
That's a little bit out of date.
yeah, we're actually not going to be talking about the navigation center. We're going to be talking about a permanent supportive housing project. The project that we are currently submitting for the goal funds that Andy Petroni was just talking about. So KIC currently does have an application in with the goal funding, which is greater opportunity of affordable living. And I'm going to briefly go over our PSH project, and I'm going to probably skip a little bit because we have just the 5 minutes. So PIC Housing is planning to develop a 20-unit permanent supportive housing building at the location of 2334 Tongass. Everyone may know this as the old Galley restaurant location. Permanent supportive housing is defined as combining affordable housing assistance with voluntary support services to address the needs of chronic homeless people. The services are designed to build independent living and tenancy skills and connect with people and community. Common services offered on site are daily living skill training, benefit acquisition assistance, tenancy support, assistance with access to appointments, providing referrals, and on-site case management and access to behavioral health. So KIC, we've named our PSH building Ketchikan. This is a Tlingit name. It means having people behind you, having your clan behind you, your people behind you, supporting you. It means be strong and have courage. It will consist of 20 units of permanent supportive housing in the Ketchikan Gateway Borough. This will be the first of its kind of this project. The project's affordable service enriched housing units will mostly serve elders experiencing chronic homelessness, who are among the borough's most vulnerable residents. The project aims to generally boost housing supply in the community. It will consist of a three-story building and featuring 16 efficiencies and 4 one-bedroom units. All units will be fully equipped and furnished with a bed, mattress, wardrobe, table, chairs, and include a kitchenette with bathrooms. There will be other space available for a kitchen flex room for larger communal functions. There's going to be a recycling room, the electronic and mechanical rooms, and the services for this building will be operated, the budget will be operated by the Ketchikan Indian community and community partners. The building will have a secured entrance, and security cameras, so there's access restrictions. So it's not just a building that anyone can walk into. And this is a common practice, there are not guests allowed into our tenants' apartments. There's a designated common space area for guests to visit, for family members to visit. So that restricts that access. Ketchikan will be a low barrier apartment complex. And last, I just wanted to add just a little bit of data. Just housing insecurity and chronic homelessness are present and growing concerns in the Ketchikan Gateway Borough. I'm sure everyone is aware. According to 2022 report to the city of Ketchikan by Ryder Consulting and Van Denberg Consulting, Ketchikan has the second highest housing prices in the state, with a record of 16% increase between 2021 and 2022. The slow pace of new construction combined with the loss of existing affordable housing units has resulted in a shortage, particularly affecting our elders who are low income with a chronic health condition. And as I mentioned before, we do have an application in with Alaska Housing Finance for the gold funds. I appreciated Greg and Swell's plug that Alaska Housing Finance does need to make Southeast Alaska and Ketchikan a priority right now. And our application is due in November, and we'll know by December if will be awarded these funds. And that's my presentation on PS Beach.
Just a brief note on homelessness. I put that on the flyer that I sent out. About 5-6 years ago, I did a survey of 7 cities for their best practices on dealing with people on the streets. And supportive housing and support services were the best practice, and it's the places where they were doing the best at this. It's not the absolute solution, but it's the best we have. So that we're just following right along with the best practices in other communities. So let's go on. Just to mention that KIC has going to be developed for Elgin. The property is up at the top of Jackson Street. There's KIC property there. There's KIC property there. There's some Summit Development and University of Alaska. Glenn Gellers and John LaGrue were talking about the need for land. Well, we need to find out from the university what they're going to do with that land. And Summit Development wants to develop as well. So I don't know if that's probably not for Swell Inc., but maybe the university and Swell Inc. And then we have Don Wesley, First Bank. Going to ask you some questions. Talk about something. This is that construction loan program we can talk about.
Good afternoon. I'm looking to see what this one is. Oh, USDA. This is the USDA. This one's been around for a while. This is the zero down program.
Maybe this isn't the
I
right.
was like, I don't think this, it's okay. It's okay. What I'm just talk about moderate income housing. We do a lot of work with the Sitka Land Trust, which uses a subsidized model with HFC. It's a really good program. A little bit of a problem with it lately is that when they started a year ago, prices were more in the low to moderate and 30% increase. So that is a hard time for the builders, being able to do that and make it affordable. Last 2 weeks ago, I was asked about some options for some low income housing, and we actually went and toured a builder who is building some modular homes that he builds them there on site, puts them on a barge and takes them over, which are running around $225, including the foundation. So we're looking for options that we can help. Some stuff we do. We do use the program that Andy discussed about the professional housing hours. It's the tribal and municipality. And that is so that we can help provide essential housing for tribal and municipalities for essential workers, doctors, teachers, nurses, the workers, firemen, that the municipalities and tribe during the game. I think that's what you asked me about.
I'm going to ask you this one.
Okay.
What about the single closed construction loan?
So we are the number one construction lender in Southeast right now. And what actually happens, and you guys probably aware already, we are doing that construction in-house, and then this turns into a takeout mortgage. We're trying to make it more affordable for people who are buying. We came up with a coupon, which it seems small, but when people are trying to buy a home that's just been built, it does, it's up to $1,000 off of their appraisal. So we're trying to work on that. And that is also for whether it is a builder or an owner builder, whoever's doing it in the takeout on there.
This is one for me to talk about. I've been attending the meetings of the Sitka Community Land Trust, and the way it works is that land has to be donated or bequeathed or granted or some way made low or no cost and put in trust. And then they get grants or donations or some way, sweat equity to build the houses on it. And people can buy those houses because they don't have to buy the land. They just buy the house. And they only rent the land. So, and then when they sell the house, they don't sell the land doesn't get sold, it just stays in trust in perpetuity, unless the trust decides to sell it. So that's how it works. There's all kinds of different ways of putting these together. Currently, the most popular one, and the one that the Sitka uses, is that when the owner sells the house, their profit on that house is limited to 25% of the purchase price, of what they over and above. And that's quite a limitation, and but other land trusts aren't built that way. And if we want to do one, we don't have to have that, because I found that's not a real popular idea. But we could have it if that's the way it works out. So I just want to let you know it's a possibility. We could put together somebody who wants to work on this. That would be great. And I will work on, I will have my sign up sheet over there. You can pick a topic you want to work on. This could be one of them. And then there's Diana. Diana, you and I discussed the factors that create the high rental rates. So you want to talk about that? Yep.
Probably don't have 5 minutes of information on rental rates. This is why rental rates are high. It's expensive to develop. It's not as profitable as building and selling. There's not a lot of land. Just getting to the point where you can start building is cash out of pocket expensive. Rentals are expensive between some tenants. And we keep Madison business. It's just, it is expensive. There's not a lot of it. It's supply and demand, and absolutely being able to improve the rental units to bring in a higher rental income. It creates a vacuum, and then, there's a lot of people that can't get into them financially or for all kinds of reasons, but that it's not a money problem. There's plenty of programs that will provide people that need assistance with that money, but having the units available to them. I get calls all the time where people are, I got all this money, I need an apartment, I don't have one. So the big projects that we've already heard about, and a couple of other ones, like it's years in the making, and it's tons of paperwork, and it's jumping through all the hoops, and then we just don't have a lot of people doing it. So they're high.
So
I honestly, my opinion is, I don't think that short-term Airbnb rentals had a huge impact on our regular apartment rentals. I don't see it. I mean, there is some, but also the tourist towns, we gotta have some. But I don't think it's chasing people to this point.
So you heard Glenn Beller talk about the fact that, well, he's doing this project. It only took them about, since he started last year, given him funding, it's gonna be done by next year. It doesn't take years and years.
Well, he has a really good learning curve already under his belt. He's got the steps down, and more power to him. I think it's a great idea. I'm just saying that that's what he does, and he even finds it difficult to develop here. And somebody just starting out is gonna have a huge learning curve.
Well, that's why I've got all the information collected, and I will be
we can
putting
all
it out to
do that.
everybody.
We can all do it.
We can all do it, yeah. Okay, we'll have So, and the borough has plans for their land out at, on Revilla Road. This is what they own out there. Now, there's Ward Lake right there. So these are all KGB properties. So, Rodney, whatever.
Kind of going after Madison, so. So I got a lot to say in only 5 minutes, so I'm gonna go fast here.
You can have more than 5 minutes.
Okay. So first off, I've got to give the disclaimer. I'm only giving you my opinion. I'm not speaking for the assembly, and borough staff is here to correct me if I get something wrong. So the manager, staff, and the assembly have been working on housing issues for many years, and staff has taken several steps in support of housing projects, and I'm just going to go through some of those. So we have worked to simplify the planning approval process as much as possible to reduce the red tape. We've conducted housing surveys and research. We've approved neighborhood plans, including the Clam Cove area. We've cleaned up our codes for clarity and to support development. We have a best in the state advocacy program on the state and federal level. So we submit grant requests, land requests from the state in support of road realignment, neighborhood construction. We submitted capital requests to the governor, including this year. We had one at 10 million and one at 5 million, and that would have opened up well over 100 lots. We didn't get that one approved, but we did get some money for Forest Park. We work with the federal government to obtain housing for the Coast Guard, and glad to see the commander here. You know, they're building housing in Sitka and Kodiak, and we wanted to build housing here. I got to meet with the Kodiak mayor here just a few days ago. He told me that duplexes going in at Kodiak are $3 million each for those duplexes. So we want some of those $3 million duplexes here. We allow citizens to make a request to buy borough land. So if there's a piece of borough land that citizens want, they can come in and petition to buy that. And then, of course, we work with other governmental and private entities to support development. And then finally, the assembly has set aside about $7 million, and that was about a year ago, in support of housing development. We didn't piss away all of our federal funds. We actually have saved some of those, and we want to have something positive to show for it. So that's kind of some of the things we've done, and all that to say, we've picked all the low-hanging fruit, I believe. And the time is kind of come to stop cutting bait and actually start fishing. And the assembly is a little frustrated. Certainly not staff's doing. Staff has done an incredible job, but we're just frustrated because the people are frustrated, and they're telling us it is time to do something about housing. So to talk a little bit about projects under consideration, we have some land on the north end, 17 to 19 mile, that will be surveyed and sold. We have potential for access to many lots off the road that's right there by North Shore Gardens. That could open up a potential neighborhood back in there. We've got some land in the Mudbite area. We'd like to build some roads. I guess we'd love private industry to build the roads. We'd like to help. And then we've got south of town, we got Fawn Mountain, which is an ideal location because of water and sewer access. So that's a great place too. Now, there's been some talk about Revilla Road, if you've seen that in the paper recently, and to Swell LLC, if they're looking for some land, please contact us because I would like to get them interested in the Revilla Road. What we keep hearing at all of these different events that we go to, whether it is the Alaska Municipal League, whether it is NACO, which is a National Association of Counties meeting, is that they're saying that if your goal as a community is just to put individual lots out there for single family homes, that's a good part of a plan. But if you want to address your housing needs, you need high density housing. You need something that supports workforce development. You need housing so that somebody can work in an industry making $20 an hour and they can afford a place to live. So what we're seeing all around the country is we're seeing that communities are supporting, they're either subsidizing or they're providing land or they're subsidizing high density developments because it is just so expensive anymore. So we've got a piece of property on Revilla Road. And this is just my impression on it. After, we've looked at this over a number of years. Richard was the one that told me about this many years ago. This piece of property, which is in the near Ward Lake, I wouldn't envision that we'd ever develop that, to be honest with you, unless we just made it into part of the trail system of parks, because I just don't think the public would support that. But these areas right here, and I believe this is just shy of 200 acres, are near existing platted roads. And one of the great things about this is that there's potential water access, potential wastewater access, and it's not near any existing neighborhoods. And if you've been an elected official, like Judy and Mr. Bynum here, you know that any major development you always run into the not in my backyard. And it is so frustrating from an elected perspective to try to get big projects done anymore because of the pushback. But the great thing is this is not near an existing neighborhood. So I think it has potential. Not all this land can be developed, but some of it could. So that's kind of one of the things that we're looking at right there.
Now that's gonna be purchased by individuals too?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And if you read the paper, that property was under consideration at one point in the past by an actual investor group in town. So what I think we need to do is we really need to think a Tongass Towers level project for our community. And the people that came before us, they knew what they needed for workforce development housing, and picture what this town would look like if we didn't have the towers. One, our economy wouldn't be as good as it is. And two, we would have an even worse problem with housing. I mean, that is one of the greatest gifts that has lasted generations and will into the future. And I really think we need to kind of think big about that moving forward. And then I'll just close with, and I saw this as a trooper. We need to be concerned with displacement, gentrification, and we need to understand that if 10 people stepped off the airplane today and they decided they wanted to live in Ketchikan, they only need more money than our 10 forests, and then they can displace those individuals. And we have a growing population of people that are unrentable. Because they have certain issues, they have alcohol issues, or maybe mild mental issues. When a landlord has an apartment come up and they get 2 or 3 dozen applicants, they can pick and choose. And who wouldn't, as a landlord, pick the best, right? So we're going to have people that will constantly fall to the bottom. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing our homeless issues increase as a result of that, and a number of other social problems that will result if we don't address the affordable housing issue. So once again, my push for as long as I'm there is going to be high density housing and what we can do to support groups like SWIFT. And I hope that they will contact us, or I'll contact them. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So I read in the paper from the Monday that one of the things they're doing with this Revilla Road property is getting easements from the Forest Service for their roads. And the Forest Service, I've talked to them about other things. They've got quite a bit of land in the borough, and I've talked to them about swapping that out, maybe the borough or some other entity, so that we can build on it. And I'll get to that later. But right now, we have a new law that was passed that allows for locally graded lumber. Can I talk about that? Okay. I've got a little slide. I got a slide on it later.
Okay.
So, how about the issues that you have with transportation costs and builders and the ordering practices that you talked to me about the other day?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm Janice Crocker. I'm with Madison Roland Burger. And I'm gonna share a story. When I was coming here for this and told all the people in the office staff, I said, well, I'm gonna be at the landing speaking about affordable housing. And I mean, just among the 5 people in the office, oh, is it low income housing? Oh, is it tiny homes? there's interest in this community and getting some affordable housing, and you know, as an employer, I can definitely see that. On my, for our employees that are earning, you know, $25 an hour, they can't afford a $600,000 home. So in my mind, when we're looking at affordable housing for people to buy, I'm looking at a smaller home, but, you know, a 1,200 square foot home as opposed to a 3,300 square foot home. In my mind, that's what we're looking for, or townhomes, you know, that share a wall. Rentals are a huge problem right now too, the shortage of them, and I can see the high density stuff working well with rental property. But one of the big things that everybody in this community knows about is the freight costs. I mean, they just go up and up and up and up. And lumber's heavy, sheetrock's really heavy, cement's heavy. And that's how we're charged by the pound. So, you know, you'll see Madison's prices go up, and generally it's because the supply went up, so we have to account for that. And then also just getting it to Ketchikan is expensive. Our operating margin right now is actually a little bit lower than it was, say, 5 years ago, because we just can't keep passing all of that along. But we need to be able to provide for the employees and keep the business strong. So there are prices, but anyways, those are just some of the topics that I came up with. And then we do offer in-store account at Madison. For like contractors or a homeowner. Some people just use it for their monthly expenses, you know, garbage bag, toilet cleaner, whatever. But when you're doing a project, if you talk to us ahead of time before you're starting in on that project, we can set up what we call a job on your account, and generally can do some kind of a discount on that. And definitely, if I get people coming in saying, you know, we've got financing to do this affordable housing project, we're going to build this many units. That's something definitely I want to try to work with people to try to get, you know, discounts passed through to keep that, to get it built so we have the housing, and B, to try to keep the business as local as we can. Anyways, that's all I really have. Thank you.
Well, back to the locally graded lumber. It doesn't have to be shipped in. With the legislature that last year passed the law that allows sawmill operators to grade their own lumber. So we can have Viking lumber and we can buy lumber from them instead of from Roseburg, Oregon to build our projects. There's some restrictions and things, but it makes everything better. So that just want to let you know that that's there. And I got to talk to Viking Lumber to see if they're actually starting to sell locally and grade their own lumber, but it's something that they can do now. And we'll keep an eye on that and see how it works. So then I'm going to talk a bit about the land that's available. Recently, I believe, Catherine Tide here. Okay. She's the regional forester for the Mystic Fjords. And I had a conversation with her about this piece of land in particular, which was by that's Peninsula Point right there, and this is Ward Cove. This used to be owned by Mental Health Trust, and we couldn't get them to develop it. And the Forest Service now has it; they've swapped it out. As to my knowledge, that's why I put the question mark there. I'm pretty sure they did. And I talked to her about, you know, maybe doing something to build some housing there. And she's willing to go through the process. It's a long, involved process to, again, swap the land or do something to make it available for building. And they own quite a bit of land in Gateway Borough. And we could talk to them about any of it. And that they're not going to be using for recreation. They're not going to be building trails through there or building cabins right there. So if they're not using it or going to use it for recreation, we can certainly talk to them and look at the process And again, that's the thing like community land trust is for local people to get interested and work with them to move it forward. I can't do it all myself, so you can sign up on the sign up sheet when if you want to work on that. So, no, it's not steep. I got out the contour maps. I put the contour lines on, but if I couldn't get it on the slide because when the contour lines are on the slide, the whole thing turns purple. But right here and here, it's not that steep. So it just needs to be assessed. And that's another thing that needs to happen is all these pieces of land that I'm going to show you, they need somebody to go out and do the feasibility of building things on, but they're there. This is a slide of the mental health trust properties. It's dated because it shows that Peninsula Point land as mental health trust. But it shows you some of what they own in the Ketchikan area. We need to have again a group of people or single individuals that are interested in negotiating with them and saying, hey, you know, what are you going to do with this land? You're going to keep it blank forever? Can't you just turn it into housing? And then we have actions that we can take. So an information resource center came to mind as one that we would have all of the things that teach people how to do what Swell Inc. is doing. Teach them all the AHFC programs, the USDA and the HUD and all the other funding programs. They'll have a center where anybody can find out what they're all about. Plus all the voucher programs and all of that. So we could create that. We could be interested in that, sign up to do it. Feasibility for the Forest Service land transfers. Manufactured housing. Don knows of somebody who's doing that and building the modular houses. Either we get them to do it here or we have somebody here to do it. Those can be like she said, 200 and 1,000 range. And I guess there's a borough code, Richard, that prevents us from permitting modular housing. Is it? No? Anybody here from the planning commission? Jackie? Jackie? Yeah, there isn't a borough code. I understood that there was a manufactured and modular house in Saxman that the planning commission permit. Well, it was a mobile home. Oh, well, that's different. They're like apples and oranges. These modern manufactured and modular homes are very, very nice, but they're in the lower price range. And then there's alternative building materials that we could look into. Again, we need a whole bunch of people to start getting interested in doing this. And then the land, I've been identifying the available land. I've got maps of unbuilt parcels. And we could put that into the information resource center so people would know where the land is. And the feasibility of transferring, buying, and of that land and the owner's plans for it. There's privately owned land that doesn't have anything built on it. What are they going to do? Die and leave it? Let's find out what's going to happen to it. And then the community land trusts. Would the borough be amenable to donating any land for a community land trust? Don't raise your hand all at once, Rodney.
I can't speak for the assembly, so I think they'd be interested in considering that.
I'm making that I'm casting that seed on the ground. Let's see if it'll grow up into wheat. Okay. So, and anybody, thinking about what are you going to do with, if you own a lot of land, what are you going to do with it? If you aren't if it doesn't go into your estate. So that wraps it up. With 10 minutes to spend, you can get some snacks. And when I was printing stuff out, I printed out some complete copies of my presentation. Not just yet. I've just got a couple more things to say. There's a sign-up sheet over there for people who want to get involved in any of these projects.
We have a sign up sheet already.
Okay. All right, you got a question?
So divide.
Can we listen? Can we listen?
Everybody's thought about doing all this housing and stuff for the elders, but what happens when your elders can't live in the house and they need more support?
Uh-huh.
The only other place that we have in Ketchikan is a pioneer home besides myself, which is the manor. So this, I think it's great what you guys are looking at doing and stuff, but you guys also need to think about the long term for them. So what can this community do for our elders? They cannot live independently or even with a little bit of services, community connections, and the other community services in this town. If you want your elders to stay here, then we need to start thinking about that as well. There has not been any other development besides the manor and the pioneer home in Ketchikan for elder housing. That means supported housing. That means where they can stay in place, live until they pass, and have services. We need more of that kind of housing as well, because if you build all these places for people to live, when they get old, they're going to leave, or they're going to be forced to leave, because they do not have services here in Ketchikan for our elders to maintain their homes. I, for one, would like to grow old here. And a lot of people that have elders that are here and they cannot stay, you lose the families as well sometimes, because they have to take care of their elders. And it's either to stop working so that they can stay home and take care of their elders, or move to a more suitable situation for all the whole family. So I really appreciate what's being said here, but I think that there needs to be a little bit bigger picture going on. You want to grow Ketchikan, well then grow it for the future, grow it for everybody's retirement. Because the pioneer homes of Alaska cannot sustain the population of Alaska. If you want to grow old in Alaska, then we need to take this another step.
Thank you.
Deborah, this is Jim McCall from Alaska Housing. Do you mind if I speak?
Who's that?
This is Jim from Alaska Housing. Do you mind if I speak?
No, you can go ahead.
Is it possible for me to share a screen with you?
Yes, go ahead. Let me see, share screen. Let's see, I have to, can you share?
No, you need to make him the host.
Where is that? I know I need to make a host. Jim. Let's see, make host. There, you're a host now.
Yeah.
You're host, you can share the screen.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully you can see this.
Yes.
So I wasn't really quite sure what to put together for this, but I wanted to give you guys a few things, and especially since the last commenter talked about senior issues in Ketchikan. I have worked in senior issues for many years, and of course know some folks down that way, Bob Sievertson, as well as Ed Zastro, who I consider a very, very close friend. And I just wanted to give you a few things about seniors just to plant a seed here. The first is, of course, AHFC has a senior housing office. It was created in Alaska law in 1990. It promotes a comprehensive response to the needs of senior citizens for adequate, accessible, secure, and affordable housing across the state. It originally came from DCRA to AHFC in 1992. And over its 33-year history, only 2 AHFC staff members have worked in that office. So going back to the comment that we just heard, why is this a really important issue? Well, you can see from this slide, hopefully, the Ketchikan overall population being somewhere between 13,000, 14,000 folks. The 60 plus community down there is about 2,500 people. So that is pretty noticeable, I would think, when you look around. equating to about 18% of your population. I went ahead and included Prince of Wales because we know that a lot of those folks move over to Ketchikan when they need services. So you can see another 26.5% of their population is 60 plus. So between the two areas, about 20%, 1 in 5 of the population is over the age of 60. I think it's also important to note that many of these individuals report a disability. So 42%, according to the US Census, reported a disability for the 65 and older population. So just some real easy math there. That equates to about 650 seniors in Ketchikan and about 450 in Prince of Wales. So obviously a big issue there. In terms of independent senior housing, just keep in mind, Ed and I and the planning department and many others worked on Pioneer Heights many, many years ago. That's a picture of Ed, of course, during the ribbon cutting many years back. 10 units there. And of course, AHFC has Seaview Terrace, which has an additional 49 senior disabled housing units for those 62 or older or with a disability of any age. And then, of course, as we know, we've got, thankfully, the Pioneer Home in Ketchikan, which has a lot of deferred maintenance, quite frankly, that keeps continuing to come up in the senior conversations. I think it's about 3.8 million, I think is what they're looking for that, maybe even more. And then, of course, you also have the Manor, which is a more private assisted living facility, all total of 57 beds there. I should make note that there is a small direct lending program for individuals who might be interested in developing and operating an assisted living home through AHFC. It's again a direct lending program. So if anyone in the community has the skill set and they want to get into that space, they should reach out to our multifamily department and investigate it. It's a great program, award-winning program, been around for many, many years. Some additional items of interest here for seniors. There's about 158 grandparents in the community raising grandchildren. Nearly half have done it for 5 years or longer. You can always kind of gauge the community in terms of lower income individuals by looking at the senior benefits program. Currently through April 1st, there were about 223 seniors who qualified for that program benefit. And as you can see there, those income numbers range from an individual at 13,658 up to a couple receiving the lowest amount at 43,120. About 1,200 residents applied for the senior veteran property tax exemption. And of the roughly 6,500 housing units in Ketchikan, about 40% are between 34 and 53 years of age. 36% of those are older than 54. So why is that important? Accessibility modifications assist with aging in place as we age. And of course, we now know that medical cost associated with a simple fall related to injury in Alaska is now upwards of $80,000. 33% of the homes are valued between $300,000 and $500,000. 15% are over $1 million. 36% of owners report no mortgage debt. And just as a snapshot of our portfolio, we have roughly about 560 active residential loans in Ketchikan currently. The average loan amount's about $292,000. And as you can see there, the average year built is 1974. I think Bob's tied up with his wife currently on an issue, but I'm sorry he wasn't able to attend this. But I do want to give a plug to the senior state plan for the next 4-year period. The QR code is up there if maybe you want to take a snapshot of that while I'm talking. But real briefly, this is a document that we work together on collectively every 4 years. It goes to the feds for approval after being approved by the Department of Health Commissioner as well as the governor. And in essence, there is a number of goals in this document. One of those is specific to senior housing. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. And, if you have questions, the chair of the Commission on Aging lives in your community, great guy. So please feel free to reach out to him or myself. You've got my contact information up there. I'll be happy to answer any questions or try to provide seniors in your community information about housing. So thanks a lot, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. This is recording and I will send it out to all the people I sent flyers to. And if you put your email address on the sign-up sheet, I'll send out the recording to you. So you'll get that QR code.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm on the ground for the last housing and so is my daughter, and I want to know would Alaska Housing consider moving the timeline down 4 months or a little more? Because it's so hard to find a house in this town, especially if you have a cat.
I think that the local Alaska Housing Office, and I think her name is Jamie, is the person who could answer that for you. They're the ones that manage that voucher program.
My daughter's down there, we can kick that and that part of it, just because now I can walk better.
It's tragic what's going on. There's a book called Addicted, which tells you all about this situation where people are paying 60% of their income for rentals.
You can check that out. UAS.
It's an extremely well-written book, won a Pulitzer Prize, and it's shocking. And
She's working 2 jobs.
yeah, exactly the same story like this, that they end up being addicted for spurious reasons or because they just can't come up with the money. And but Alaska Housing has these programs and that lady I mentioned at their office, I think it's in that building next to the Pioneer Home, is the one to go through. So, help yourself to the snacks. Please don't leave anything here. And thank you all for coming. You'll be hearing from me.